Hello, family. Welcome. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. How are you today? Happy Friday. Yay! It is Friday, babies. July the 12th, 2024, and the time is 8:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over here. Check in, let us know where you're hailing from. I see about 200 262 people in the chat. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please share the video because we're going to get into some very good information today. Oh, John gave me some information I'm going to pull up for you all today. For those of you who are trying to figure out, how can we discern whether or not this story is believable? Now, I happen to have the gift of discernment, so we're going to call him John. This is John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. that I'm going to introduce to you today. And I'm just so excited with joy. And he has become a friend of mine. He and his lovely companion, Rockin' Robin, and baby, she is gorgeous. If you've seen pictures of her, you'll be like, okay, I see why you fell in love with her. Okay, but today, family, I want to bring him on, but let me just give you a little bit of background history. John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. is the real John, the real son of the 35th president of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Sr. His father, being the 35th president of the United States, was known as an American hero, very well beloved of all people of all races. His father had a famous quote, and it's in the book, in the beginning of the book. So you want to make sure you get the book called Stolen Identity, written by John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. And in the book, in the first, maybe the second page, John Jr. tells his father's mission. And this is what he's known for. He said, there is a plot in America to enslave every man, woman, and child. But before I leave this high noble office, I intend to expose this plot. John Fitzgerald Kennedy Sr. exposed the plot. He not only exposed the plot about the deep state, he talked about the Federal Reserve central banking system and how that system also was an enslavement for the American people. He was also an advocate for civil rights. This man was a righteous man and loved in all communities, no matter what race, creed, or color. This man was also loved, by not just people from different colors, but different religious backgrounds and from both sides, whether they were Republican or Democrat, because the man was righteous. And speaking of civil rights, he said, we face a moral crisis regarding civil rights, and we must act boldly by making a commitment that race has no place in American life and in law. This man was so determined to make sure that everybody had the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness that he said it in his speeches. He stood, as they say, 10 toes down, flat-footed, and he spoke from his soul about equity, fairness, love, righteousness, and peace. This is the legacy that was given over to John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. Now, unfortunately, because the man that we know as the 35th president, the American hero, was so firm on his commitment and in his commitment to liberate the people by exposing their plot to enslave every man, woman, and child, they took his life. The deep state, the cabal, the Illuminati, whoever you want to call it, the people that run the government. So John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. was unsafe once they took his dad. He was a little boy, and we're going to bring him on. He's going to tell his story. I just want to give you a background history, so you have to get the book. They took his father's life, and he and his mom had to make certain arrangements to make themselves safe. You all know the story that she later went on and she married Aristotle Onassis, who's a Greek shipping magnate, but he's also an oil billionaire. And John has fond memories of growing up with Aristotle Onassis, who did a phenomenal job of protecting him. But he's going to tell a story about how sinister the government is, where eventually they took out his life. Okay. And they did a lot of things to John once he was kind of like unsheltered, unprotected from that father figure, being the deep state. And you have to read the book to know what they did to him. I'll let him tell the story. Throughout his life, he knew he was John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., but, you know, the people wanted to steal his identity and his legacy. The thing I love about this story is that the legacy that John Fitzgerald Kennedy Sr. left for his son was so deeply embedded in the genetic code of John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. that even though they beat him, they abused him, they took his money, they took his mother, his sister, his father, his inheritance, that legacy was so deeply embedded in his soul and in his mind, and his body, and his spirit, that it drove him to live despite the heinous things that they did to him, and to come out and tell his story and seek justice on behalf of his whole bloodline. That's phenomenal. So without any further ado, family, I'm not going to do this story any justice like the man who lived it would do the story justice. So I'll introduce to some and present to others none other than John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. Hi, John.
Hi, Kia. Thank you so much for that. Listening to you just now, I got all teared up, and I was like, I hope she don't bring me up.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know what that was, but I got to go check it out.
Okay, okay. He's all constantly under attack, family. Pray for him. I'll keep talking while he's away. Briefly, he was giving to a faux family, a fake family called the Quigleys, and his name and identity were changed, and he was supposed to be in protective custody. But you got to know that Secret Service, who's supposed to be protecting you, they have double agents, people working for both sides. So he comes from a bloodline that they wanted. He come from one of the top bloodlines, so elite families. And when you're a part of the bloodline families, you know, on camera, everything looks glorious, but you go through all type of ritualistic abuse. And when he was given to this fake family, the Quigleys, he was told, this is your family, this is your new mother, this is your new father. But in fact, these were his handlers. Now, I've heard stories like this before with like Rena Houston, who was Whitney's eldest daughter, and some other people that I know, whose name I won't mention, names I will not mention at this time. So I know the stories well. These people were handlers. So even though they were supposed to be his new family, they were very abusive to him all growing up. And, you know, this abuse included any type of abuse you can imagine, the most heinous types. But it's what the cabal does, it's what the elite do. They drag you through these rituals and cause you pain and make you live in constant fear. They're so sinister that they took out his mom, his sister, his stepbrother, later on, his stepfather, and replaced them. Replaced his sister with a new person, replaced his mom with a new person. So even though he was with the Quigleys, he still had Jackie at first, who they took out, and then they brought in a new Jackie Kennedy. And so sometimes you'll hear him say Jackie, and people have asked him, why did he call his mom Jackie? Well, because he knows the difference between his mama and somebody that's fake. So keep checking in, family. I see 578 people in the chat. Hey, John.
Hey.
I know you had to check that out. You don't know what it was? I heard it.
You heard it though, didn't you?
I did.
It was a big bang, like something crashing.
Yes,
I went outside and it's all quiet.
I'm
getting too old for this.
I know. They're constantly attacking him, constantly harassing him. They put a chip in him when he was a child so they could track him. And the way they do it in these elite families, you can work, but they take your money away. You can try to live a life of freedom, but they follow you and track you. Okay, you're back, so I'll let you tell the story.
Oh no, they've shut my bank accounts down. for absolutely no reason. They would, you know, make up stories to shut my bank accounts down. And I was just telling a guy last night, I went for 20 years having to cash my paychecks at the liquor store, just because I couldn't have a bank account. And if I did start one, they would close it down. But yeah, they wanted me living in a life of poverty. They, you know, always traveling around. But I run towards trouble, not away from it. So,
so John, I want to start like kind of from the beginning, but I don't want to take you through any pain. You know, I don't want you to relive any pain. Can you tell us who were the Quigleys? Like, I know they gave you to them. Why them? Who were they?
It was at a very young age, real young. They see the Secret Service. They're secret. People don't know how they operate. But I believe Max Quigley was a forger. But it's really hard to say, but he was connected in a way. And they figured out he would be a good, you know, they would be a good placement for me to, I guess, keep me hid out. But they became the handlers, where the government agents would come and get me from their home. But their connections, the Quigley, you know, there's a lot of people trying to research who the Quigleys actually were with the Kennedys. There's several connections with Quigleys and the Kennedys. There was a Kennedy that married a Quigley. There was a Quigley that did one of the investigations of my father's death. Quigley's comes up a lot, but as far as, I think it was just that they were part of the shadow Secret Service, the government, on keeping things quiet and hid out.
Okay. Can you tell us what is the purpose of them abusing you? Like, is that just a part of what they do? It's a part of their lifestyle? Like the Quigleys and the people that were all a part of that? The abuse?
You know, I remember a lot of things from when I was young being placed with the Quigleys, but it's so secret. The Quigleys, you know, they would take me to church every Sunday. That we had to go to church. It's almost like a cover. But then you got some of the, you know, child kidnapping, replacement of children. I, you know, my whole life, it was my beliefs on the child kidnapping is, you have all these powerful families. And they're all a bunch of greedy monsters. They always want to work their way up to the top. So whenever a woman had a child in one of the families, they would take that child away from her at birth and they would give it to another family. And this was before DNA and every other thing. But they were actually taking children from one family and placing them in another family. And it would keep the peace. So it was like, it was all one big family. Even Alexander the Great and past, you know, kings and warriors, when they would conquer a country, they would marry into the family to keep the peace. Alexander the Great conquered Asia, so he married the king of Asia's daughter. I believe it was her daughter. So it kept the peace. Like, hey, we're all one big family now. I always believed that's why they did all the switching with children and every other thing. Like my son David, in my book, I believe it's in my book anyway. When my ex took him back east and at 2 years old and came back with a totally different baby. I believed it was that kind of ritual. You know, they take the children and bring back and do the switch. So it's all one big happy family. And you know, you don't go after that family to try to take their wealth and their power from them, because you might be killing your own family members.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay.
That
Wow.
was always my thinking. Now I don't even know anymore.
Mm.
You know, I can think of one thing and be totally wrong, but that was, you know, my whole life I was thinking that's why it was done.
Mm-hmm.
I could be totally wrong, but that's what I thought for years.
Yeah. And so everybody in Hollywood, the politicians and the people that they put in front of us, they're all interconnected. Okay.
100%.
100%.
Wayne used to always say it's a small, small world.
Mm.
Keep them small, keep them tight knit.
Mm.
I met, and to this day, I can't believe how I met so many people. But then I think of, you know, Larry King and David Letterman, Jay
Mm.
Leno, all these Tonight Show actors. They all have black books. They all have 2-3 stars coming on their show every single night, 365 days a year. Their little black book is full. So you get Oprah Winfrey's little black book, and you get Jay Leno's little black book, and you got literally thousands of connections to keep these people in check with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all connected.
And in the
That's what
schools.
Wayne used to tell me. If I wanted your story out, it would come out the next day.
Wow. Wow.
And I don't know what happened to Wayne. You know, I figured many times, you know, years ago when I had my little art store, I thought Wayne was going to bring me out. I really did. I was working 18 hours a day. I was like, today's the day. Wayne's going to bring me out, and I'm going to be John Kennedy Jr. again. Not back then that I was actually telling anybody I was John Kennedy Jr., but I was waiting for something to happen, and it never did. But yeah, they keep them all tight knit.
Yes. And just to be clear for those who haven't read the book, Wayne was kind of like, I don't know if he was like a protector. What was he exactly? Because he in the book he would come out at particular times when somebody was trying to like get rid of you, like kill you. He would come out and show up and get rid of them. And he seemed like he would take you through certain rituals to make sure you learn how to protect yourself. So do you know who Wayne was?
I get asked that question a lot. I could say who I think, you know, but I spent so much time with Wayne and still never really knew him, anything about him. But when you're under MK Ultra too, somebody can say they're Wayne, or somebody could say, hey, that's Wayne over there. And it can be somebody totally different than Wayne. They're the best at the best of what they do. And Wayne didn't want anybody knowing who he was. But when I was young, real young, Wayne to me was probably my cousin. It was a war. Wayne took me around with the FBI. He took me around on battleships. He hid me out on a nuclear submarine. I believe he was part of the Kennedy family. Very powerful family, the Kennedys. And it's not, you know, they don't advertise. They don't tell you what they do. But he was training me at a very, very young age. The military, he wanted me to be in all the services. I was crawling through the mud one time, and it had been like, I don't know, the third time I went through the training of crawling under the barbed wire in the mud. But I had been up for days. And I mean, actually days. And Wayne handed me a revolver. And I put that revolver to my head and I pulled the trigger.
Oh my God. Okay.
And there was a blank in it. And he was like, don't ever kill yourself, because you're doing this for your family. You're doing this for your loved ones that aren't here anymore. And we're teaching you, we're training you to do what you got to do in the future. But it was such vigorous training. There was so many times I actually wanted to take my life. I didn't want to go on. It was so brutal, so much abuse, the schooling and the training, you know, and you go through that training, and then like the blank in the gun. So it was like, don't kill yourself, but we're going to kill you. So then they grabbed me and they tied me to a stake out on a little grassy knoll, and you're sitting there tied up. You can't move. And next thing you know, there's a firing squad coming up to you and guys pointing rifles at you, and they shoot you with blanks. And then you're sitting there tied to a pole, and you kind of lose the fear of death after all that over and over and over again. And I don't know if that's why that was done, but after a while, I didn't fear death at all. I didn't, you know, sometimes you look forward to it.
Wow. Wow. And you mentioned the schools, they were controlled by the CIA, the community, the training, everything you did was controlled in every community in which you lived.
It is so huge. West Point. I went to West Point, and it wasn't for very long. And they said they got their own program going on. Catholic Church. I was actually at a young age, I was raped by the Catholic Church. But what they do is they get these children and they do their things to children to build them up so they don't talk, so they don't tell. So they build their little armies up. If you remember, like the Catholic Church and all the lawsuits of the priests being pedophiles and every other thing. Yes. They don't tell you, but they were building all those children up to be part of an army to do their works. But it's so, I mean, it's so huge. They were working so hard from the Catholic Church to Hollywood, the Hollywood kids, to the musicians. But yeah, there was so many little things that they were building to build up armies of children to do. Basically, when they can get a child under MK Ultra, that child can go commit a murder and never know they did that murder. So they're sitting back, letting these children do all the crimes. They're gathering up all the money and resources and getting the power, and they can't get caught, you know?
Yeah.
It's a tool they use.
So we call it abuse. They would call it training.
Right.
Okay. One of the things that I recall, it's like God took me through a lot of different jobs, and my mom's like, "Would you just stick to one job?" But I understand now everything is coming together. I used to be a rape crisis counselor, and what I learned was there are some people that I lived in West Virginia. A lot of things was going on there. They would molest the children through the anal cavity because the training that I received was because when you go through the anal cavity, it's like a portal there, and it causes the child's brain to fracture into different segments, so that now the child becomes, I don't know if it's schizophrenic, but develop multiple personalities in order to cope with that level of trauma. And
that was done to me. Some of the crazy stuff they done, I don't even want to mention it, but that was one thing that was done to me.
Yeah.
And I remember the females, the young female children that were getting abused also. And that's so when they get older, they can make the money and bring it into the families.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was real young, I called her my sister. And actually, I stood up to John Gotti because I was just a child, but I called this one girl my sister. And John Gotti was talking about going and having sex with her. And I was like, "You're not going to go have sex with my sister," but his bodyguard knocked me down. But I was actually there when they were having sex performed on this young girl. And they were like, "Don't stop. She'll like it sooner or later." But then it's to build these children up through the families for over the years, because it's a lot of brainwashing and a lot of subliminal ideas put in their head over and over and over again.
Then you develop multiple personalities, and they can send you on different missions, and you can actually become somebody else or you become so numb. And that's my understanding. You, like you said, you don't even know you're doing it. You almost have to. This is what you know, I've read and I've heard from some children that I worked with. But that's horrible. And you had nobody to talk to, nobody to run to, right?
No. I don't know if this is in my, I don't even know if I'm going to say it. But I will, because it's truth. The Quigley family, when I was young, they tied me up, literally tied me up. And they actually had a dog have sex with me while I was tied up. They actually held me on the ground, and then they placed this dog on top of me to have sex with me.
I'm so sorry.
They made they put socks over the dog's paws so the dog wouldn't scratch me. But they had told me while they were doing it that I better cooperate or they were going to kill my loved ones. That's how they operate. That's the hardcore crap that these people do. But that was done by the Quigleys. And they took pictures while they were doing that. And I think those pictures went to either Jackie or Aristotle. But they did shit like that. Just like in my book. I don't know if the picture's in my book or not. But they actually took me to a house. As soon as I went in, I was like, hey, you guys are going to bring me out. You know, this was federal agents that brought me there to the backyard. The minute I walked in the backyard, this guy just comes running up to me and punching me in the face. My white T-shirt was all bloody. And I was like, what the hell? You just ruined my day. Then they made me go into the garage. There was a big dog cage crate, you know, one of those metal crates. And I got the picture. Somebody sent me the picture of me actually in that dog cage. But they made me take my white T-shirt off that was all bloody from being punched in the face. They made me put on a green Greek soccer shirt. And I remember they told me to put newspapers down. And while I was putting the newspapers down on this dog cage, they were taking pictures of me. Then they told me to get in the dog cage. And I was in that dog cage for hours. And then I kept saying out of the darkness into the light because I thought they were going to come back and kill me while I was stuck in that dog cage. And then I was fed a handful of pills. And I thought, well, these pills are to kill me. So the mind games are crazy. But when I was in that dog cage, they were actually taking pictures of me in that dog cage. And that was these people at the top. They use these strong arm tactics over and over and over again to acquire money. That was just another time of many that I was tortured and abused. And I believe it was for extortion money from the Kennedy family or the Onassis family. I don't know all the answers. I just know what happened to me. But I do believe it was for extortion.
And your father had passed during this time, right? He was.
Oh, yeah. They had already assassinated him.
Okay.
And so this was after. Jackie wanted me to be schooled by many, many people. She was paying a lot of money. So some of these things happened while I was hanging out with a famous artist like Pablo Picasso or, you know, so many famous people that she paid to school me. Another, you know, I was in Hollywood. My Hollywood career had been stolen. My identity was stolen as Richard Steele in Hollywood. So many stories that happened. A lot of mean people in this world. I was on the set with John Wayne, and they were making me work. I never got paid, but I always did a lot of work in Hollywood. Never got paid though, from working on the boardwalk in Atlantic City to, you know, stacking firewood on set for John Wayne and every other thing. But I was actually stacking firewood on a set with John Wayne. and John Wayne's whole crew was there. But this guy kept pushing me around all day, shoving me around, and he was yelling at me. He was being a real jerk. I'm just a kid trying to stack firewood, and he actually shoved me to the ground one day, actually hard for no reason. I had a load of firewood, and he just pushed me to the ground. And this was an adult. You know, here I was a child. He was an adult. And John Wayne seen that. And John Wayne talked to, I seen him right up to this one guy. And next thing I knew, there was a handful of men there kicking the crap out of that guy that shoved me to the ground. I don't know if he lived or not, but they beat him to a bloody pulp.
These are the people running our government, like, and running these federal agencies and running the schools.
That's it.
They're all part of us.
They believe in strong arm tactics, kidnapping, and I remember it all from a young age, all the way to Charles Manson. I couldn't remember his name the other day. I can't remember names. I was sitting there today because I had been tortured so much where I can't spell. I tried writing a note for help one time when I was actually kidnapped, and I was beat. And I was telling Robin today, me and Robin went out this morning, and I was like, you know, Robin, I know I wrote it down 100 times, if not 1,000 times, but you know, I can't even spell junior. I was like, Robin, how do you spell junior?
Yeah.
Because I see it, but in my mind, it just goes black.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. So thank you for telling the story. I know sometimes when you tell stories, you relive it. So I appreciate it. I don't want to stay on it too long because you've been through too much. Your mom was paying for people to teach you, to train you in the arts and things like that. Did she and some of the other women know that these things could happen to their children, and you just have to just kind of go along with it? Or like, I'm just trying to figure like,
I know my mom started going crazy.
okay.
And they started working a body double in. And they were placing that body double with me. So sometimes I was like, are you my mom or not my mom? But it was really confusing. I got to stop saying so much. I start thinking in my head and I say, but
we're here with you. We're not judging you. You tell your story however you feel. Yes, sir.
Yeah. There was one time my mother was painting a picture. My mother loved to paint. And her mind was in outer space. I was like, Mom. And there was also a picture. They purposely brought me to New York City from the Quigley family. And they got Jackie. And I remember the fear in the Secret Service agents when they saw Wayne with me. Wayne brought me there, but the other Secret Service agents had fear, and they were basically helping us across the busy street in New York to Central Park. But my mom, Jackie, never said a word to me. Ever. She got on the car. She started reading her book. I still don't know if it was my real mother or my fake mother, the replacement of my mom. But I don't know. They screwed up her head so bad. But just seeing the fear in the Secret Service agents, I knew something was not right. Something was up. But Wayne made people fear him. Because he had the power. He had the power. He would just kill you.
Wow. So can you tell me about your memories with Aristotle Onassis, your stepdad? What did you have?
Yeah, and they're crazy memories.
Okay.
They really are. Because one minute he was the nicest man in the world. And the next minute he was throwing me around, but he had a lot going on in his. I believe there was 3 Aristotle Onassises.
Okay.
There was the one put in place of him that was teaching the fake John and the fake Carolyn to be with him. I mean, that man was a real ass to me. But Aristotle, when ow, come on now, stop. Cat sitting on my lap trying to bite my hand.
Oh, kitty. Kitty.
Robin's been spoiling that cat something terrible. Yeah, because there's so many crazy stories.
Yeah.
I remember his son, before his son was killed. His son died in my arms on that plane. I believe it's in my book. I made a video, but I was there when Aristotle handed him the keys to a brand spanking new Jaguar, awesome black Jaguar, on his birthday. But when Aristotle pulled up, Aristotle was like, "What the hell is he doing here?" And looking right at me, he said it. But was it the real Aristotle or one of the fake Aristotles? They're all controlled by the shadow government, by the cabal. So it was really, 1 minute he's being real nice to me, and the next minute he's being a real prick. And I could never figure it out.
And your mom married him.
Confusing when you don't know what they're planning, what they're doing. But like I said, I believe there was three Aristotle Onassises, and that's because the man was a billionaire and they were stealing his money. When my stepbrother was killed on the airplane that day, right after that, Aristotle had me in the hospital. I think I broke my arm, but he was like, "You can't ever tell anybody ever that your brother was killed. It was an accident." He was drilling me in the hospital, but I was right there when the doctor pulled the bullet out of his son's head, and the doctor told him the bullet went in and then spun around, and I was just 13 years old, and I was sitting there right there while the doctor was telling Aristotle that's how he died. But Aristotle is there telling me I can never tell anybody. Yeah, it's crazy. But after that, I mean, it really got crazy after that. From my stepsister thinking I'm the one that killed her brother, and I was 13 years old. She's saying, "Well, you don't have any remorse. Did you kill my brother?" So there was that going on, and then Aristotle was on the island, and he had hired mercenaries. There was mercenaries walking all over his island with assault rifles, and Jackie and Jackie's sister had been murdered and replaced too. Now that I, figured it all out, but we were hunkered down on the steps of the island while all these guys are walking around with assault rifles, and Aristotle's looking off in the ocean with his binoculars. And they were both saying, "We got to get out of here. They're going to kill us. We got to get out of here." And I was 13 years old when that was going on. But a lot of crazy memories. There was 3 little girls on that island. So our Secret Service, the shadow government, the cabal, whatever you want to call them, were working so many different angles trying to steal these billions of dollars. I had 3 Caroline Kennedys come up to me. One said, "I'm your sister Caroline." The next one said, "I'm your sister Caroline." And the other one said, "I'm your sister Caroline." And I'm like, I got 3 sister Carolines. Where's my real one?
Wow.
But it's the mind games they play like that. And you don't know why they're playing them. They're just playing them.
That's evil. That's evil. And your mom married Aristotle for protection, though, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, yes. And they marry each other, I'm assuming.
I think it was a marriage just for protection.
Okay.
But I really don't know the whole story. I was on the island when I was introduced to my stepbrother, the man that stole my identity. Now, was it Aristotle's body double and not the real Aristotle's son? All I know is the man that stole my identity, that the whole world knew, I was told he was my step brother.
Okay.
What Aristotle was he actually fathered from? I really don't know why, because his real father was a billionaire.
Right.
So why would he step in the shoes as me to become rich when he could have been rich already? So maybe he was the fake heiress, one of the fake heirs. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm throwing that out there. I have no idea. But why they did what they did was obviously to steal billions of dollars. But
yeah,
I don't have all the answers. I really wish I did. Maybe these people keep records. They
know.
They're just being quiet, sitting back, being quiet. I wish that they'd stand up, man up, and the truth would come out. I really do.
Because as far as we know, this was Aristotle, or the fake Aristotle's child, John, or that they call John, because the cabal likes to play mind games, and he was a body double, so they called him John. But this son was close to your age, I think, right? And
he was actually born the same year, in 1960.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, he was born the same year. I wish I had more answers, but even when we were in school, with the picture of me side by side, I was told then and there he was my stepbrother, John. They were like, "You're going to call him John," and he punched me in the nose for calling him John.
He didn't want to be called John. His name was George, right?
Yeah, he didn't want to be called John.
And so this is most likely his mother, Maria Callas, who was Aristotle Onassis' mistress. Yes.
Yeah, I was actually brought on to Aristotle's yacht one day, and when I came aboard, Aristotle was with her, but my mom wasn't there. I'll never forget that, because he had his mistress there in the cabin, and they were sitting at the table probably drinking or something. They drink a lot of booze. But I walked in, seen them both sitting there, and I was told to go to my cabin. My mother wasn't even around. I think my mother showed up after, a while, but yeah, I was told, go to your cabin.
And John, the guy, he actually looks Greek now. When I think about it, olive complexion, dark hair, just like Aristotle, or the fake Aristotle. He didn't like to be called. I recall you saying John. His name was George, and it's interesting because he also produced. Then he published George magazine. So
yeah, that was right around the time my fake mother's Jackie's death that George magazine came out, and I've been sharing the last couple of days. One of the gals on TikTok pulled the Larry King interview up from TikTok and started sharing it. Henry started sharing it, but I did a couple videos of it. With Larry King.
Yes, and somebody was saying the same thing. If you see the interview with the fake George John with Larry King, it's all in our face that they lied to us. Yes, thank you, Nora. John had told me about that today, and we're going to show that video for you all whenever John's ready. You need to take a break, John?
I'm just going to go out and look around again.
Okay.
I'm still wondering what that big bang was. It sounded like it was a car hitting the house, is what it sounded like. I'm just going to check it out one time.
Okay. Yes, sir. So for all of you that don't know, John recently lost his son, his only son. So please send him prayers and positive thoughts and positive vibrations. It happened like 2 days before he was to come and do the interview that we did 2 weeks ago. He found his son deceased in the house. He passed away from, I think it was like heat exhaustion, but he left his dad a note, and his son was like traumatized, and he was saying that they were out to get him, And he had been subject to MK Ultra all his life too. So this is something that they struggle with. You struggle with once you endure that all your life. And they can even send certain messages and weaponry towards you to cause you to hear things and see things. They can do things with the chip that's in you. Um, and now and it's really horrible. It's sad. So he found his son deceased, and now they're trying to bury him. He has been forced to live in abject poverty, both his son and he. You might think, well, how? He's John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. It's something that they do. Let me tell you, you guys know I'm a very honest person. And I've told you the story with Rena Houston. It is so similar to John's story that it valid, and not that they need any validation, but I should say it kind of confirms everything what both of them has said. John in his book, and Rena has told me firsthand, is you can go get a job, but they will take money from you. You can get a job and they will get into the minds of the person that's hiring you, and that person will mistreat you. You'll fall in love with somebody thinking that this person is just, a wonderful person, and it's somebody that was sent to you. So you're constantly on guard. You don't know whom you can trust. They're always harming you, sending type of weaponry and different vibrations to you, sending people to you to harm you. So you have to constantly be on guard. And it's a horrible way to live. So I'm saying all that to say that John has been through a whole lot of trauma. And so for him to come and tell his story takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength. He's been forced to live in abject poverty all his life because they stole all of his family's inheritance. And that's why you'll see that I put up his Cash App. You all know how I am. I believe in supporting people who come onto the channel. So if you are inclined to bless him, he didn't ask me this. I asked him to please give me his Cash App. Then you can support him in his work to get more DNA, which he's done it. He's exhausted that. We'll ask him the question in a few minutes about DNA testing or anything, or just to eat, just to live. Then please send a Cash App to $ Poor Boy John Jr. $ POORBOYJOHNJR, and I put at the bottom in the ticker right there for you.
Thank
John,
you so much.
You're welcome, sweetheart. Can you tell us, and I'm going to get to the clip in a minute, why do they cause you to live in abject poverty? Like, what is I guess they just steal everything from you and you don't have
these people are so powerful. They don't want somebody like me coming out. And they're so powerful that they can run. I've seen them run towns, put their members in place of a whole town, from judges to the sheriff to the coroner. You can have a handful of people and you can take over a whole town. And I've seen it. But not only can you run the whole town, you can place who you want in that small town to make money, whether it's a roofer or a carpenter or a construction company, the local market. You can put who you want in the town, and outsiders aren't welcome. But somebody like me that wants a job or wants to work, you're only given a job to dig ditches. That's all they allow you to do. If you try to up yourself, they'll make sure you can't. It sounds bizarre, but it's total power. When I was in Corscold, California, growing up, I had so many people. I still have nightmares. I had young girls that were older than me coming for me for help. Even my aunt, I think it's in my book about Opal May Edwards, told me there's some funny business going on here, and I never saw her again. But I actually had a couple young girls, a few years older than me, saying, "Hey, I need your help. They're going to kill me. I really need your help." And I was like, "Well, what can I do to help you?" And they're like, "Never mind, you can't help me." And then I would never see them again.
Considering all you've been through, how are you able to tell your story safely now? Or are you?
I just pray to God that I am safe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, you do what you can. And I've seen things on a lot less lower level where if you're not a part of secret societies, you don't get certain jobs. And I know in secret societies, they do what's called hazing. It's not the level of abuse that you've been through, but they do some type of ritualistic abuse to make you pledge allegiance to these secret societies. And it start even at the lower level, like the Black Greek
Oh,
societies, college societies, you know,
when
the
I
Greek.
when I was young, they had a secret meeting. Um, it was actually, like a little auditorium where they did plays for Hollywood.
Mm.
But it was in the middle of the night and it was full. But they had me stand up and they wanted me to pledge allegiance to the devil, sell my
Mm,
soul to the devil in front of the whole crowd of people.
mm.
And I said, I can't. I won't.
Oh, wow.
And then somebody, like a week later or so, was actually making fun of me, called me chicken lips. It was so many people in the community there that night where I wouldn't, actually acknowledge the devil as my
Mm,
savior.
mm,
But they were actually harassing me, giving me a hard time, calling me chicken lips.
mm,
You don't have the ball. You don't have what it takes. All you had to do was say, the devil is your savior or whatever, and you would have it all. But I
mm,
wouldn't do it. And I think it was Wayne that came to that guy, and Wayne was really pissed off, and he said he can't because
mm.
he already belongs to another family. See, they were
Wow.
wanting me to join their family, but me being John Kennedy, I was already sold my soul or whatever to
Mm,
another family because there's many, many families.
mm,
But Wayne was actually setting that guy straight. That was, you know,
mhm,
it's
mhm.
complicated, but when you think about it, it's not.
Yes. And on the question of DNA, John, I know you probably get exhausted answering this question. Why should you have to prove that you are who you are? You have taken several DNA tests.
I've taken
Yes.
5 DNA tests. The big one is testing my father's hair samples against my samples.
Mm-hmm.
That came back. The first test, there's many tests they can do, but that came back inconclusive. We actually
Mm-hmm.
spent thousands of dollars to get that one done. The scientist said he's not giving up on that one.
Good.
But my question is to these people that ask me for DNA, why aren't you asking our government? They are the ones that put me in witness protection. They're the ones that stole my life. How come you're not screaming for our FBI to prove me right?
Mm.
I don't understand. People, I'm the victim here, and people want me to prove out who I am when the government, the FBI, the Secret Service, this shadow government's the one that put me in witness protection in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it was going to be this hard to come out. I didn't know I had to prove myself to anybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we should be screaming, bring out John Kennedy, prove that he is who he is, because they
No,
can so easily.
we love a good story. They put somebody in front of us, and they tell this beautiful romantic story, and we fall in love with that story, and we think whatever they put in front of us on the television is real. And so anybody comes out to say something that's opposite of what we've been told makes us go into cognitive dissonance where we're like, oh no, it can't be true. So I appreciate you telling your story, and I appreciate your courage and your boldness in saying I don't have to prove myself, but you still go through it.
And people do that all the time. Our
Yeah.
government is a crime ring. They get
Mm-hmm.
away with pre-planned first-degree murder and identity theft. They
Mm-hmm.
run everything. They run all the federal bureaus. They love plane crashes. That's
Mm-hmm.
how they killed Donald Trump. That's how they killed Sam Walton's son. There's so many examples I can give you
Mm-hmm.
of how they cover it up.
Aaliyah.
My
The same.
my body double, John. Man that stole my identity. How did they get away with it?
Mm.
I did a talk show the other day, and I mentioned, Donald Trump died in a plane, helicopter crash on a, parkway in New Jersey,
In
and they covered it up. Yeah, they covered it up. Well, they send me an article. The people covering it up work for our federal government. It's not hard for them to cover it up. They're working there. They're getting paid by our government to cover it up, to keep being able to kill people. So when somebody sends me an article, that Donald Trump wasn't on that helicopter that day, it's like, so they covered it up. But
Donald Trump is your relative. Can you tell them who Donald Trump was to you?
I believe he was my cousin, but I was never told he was my cousin. Okay. I was just told Donald Trump was your family member. I was taken around at a young age, and I was said, this guy's your family. This guy's your family. Family is everything. That's the way you're taught. Family is everything. You die for family. You stand by family. You fight to the death for your family. That's what I was taught. So when I saw Donald Trump dead on a gurney, I couldn't actually walk up to him. They wouldn't let me walk up to him and pull on his cheeks to make sure he wasn't wearing a mask. But it was Donald Trump. But so when I say I couldn't 100% identify that it was Donald Trump, I couldn't go there and pull off his mask if he was wearing one. I couldn't, give him a kiss goodbye or anything like that. I saw Donald Trump's dead body on that gurney that day. In my mind, was it Donald Trump? Yeah, especially when I heard Donald Trump told me through other ways that I needed to lawyer up if I wanted to come out as John Kennedy Jr. Family don't do that. And like Bobby Kennedy that's running for president, they're all the same crime ring. You got Epstein, and you got Maxwell, and you got Donald Trump, and you got Robert Kennedy, you got John. You put them all together, it's the same crime ring I'm exposing as not being fit. And my story exposes them all. It really, really does. It's so deep.
When Donald Trump died in a plane crash in 1989, what was the reason for them to take you to the crash? Was it because he was a family member?
I have no idea. I was brought there like I was brought many, many places. Maybe it was to let me know it was a pre-planned killing, that they were going to kill him. They were going to take him out. I wish I had the answers. All I know is it had to be pre-planned because I was in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I wish I had all the answers. Why, after the helicopter crash, did they take me to that site? Yeah, I don't have the answer. I don't know, but I don't have answers to a lot of. All I can say is they're running the show. They can get away with murder, and they can put it right in your face. They can kill Donald Trump and make him president of the United States. Maybe that's why I was there, so they could show me how powerful. Maybe they thought I'd be scared after that and run and hide.
And what's the motivation for them, like killing like the people like Donald Trump? What?
Oh, money, always money, power.
Always
money and power. I mean, you think about Donald Trump. They sat back, they said Donald Trump's a billionaire. He's got all these hotels, casinos, all this real estate. Let's kill him. And the minute we kill him and replace him, we own it all. So the minute that helicopter crashed in New Jersey on the Parkway, they instantly became billionaires. Instantly. It's all greed. It's all over money. It's all over power. Then they got away with it in '89, so they made the man president. They made the man that stole Donald Trump's identity president of the United States. Now they got it all because the United States is a big prize.
Wow.
But I've sat there pondering, why was this done? Why was that done? And it always comes back to the mighty dollar. Always.
And if you were not telling the truth, you would think they would sue you. Somebody would. Yay.
I just heard that. Did you hear that?
Yes. God bless you, fam. Thank you,
Thank
family.
you, whoever that was. That's so awesome.
Thank you, guys. For anybody who wants to bless this man of God, please send a cash app to him at $ Poor Boy John, POORBOYJOHNJR. It's right here at the bottom on the ticker, and he will greatly appreciate it because life has been really, really challenging. And speaking of money, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that I was talking to you earlier that my refrigerator went out. We just had to throw out a couple $100 worth of groceries. I'm wondering how we're going to get a new refrigerator. And I was sitting here last night going, what? Then the battery, I needed to buy a new battery because the battery went out. And King Smarty blessed me with a cash app. And I was like, how did he know I was sitting here with tears in my eyes going, what's next? What am I going to do next? But big shout out to everybody that's sending blessings. It really helps. It sure does. It keeps me going. It does.
You're loved, John. All the things that you've been through, we can't make up for it, but we love you. You know, you're our brother. You're everything to us, you know. And it's not just because you're John F. Kennedy Jr., because you're a human. You're a man in your own right. And you've been through so much, and we feel your pain, literally. So we love you. We're here for you. We're here with you. We're going to keep sharing your story. And so speaking of sharing your story, can you tell us how we can help get this story out?
Oh, I wish I had the answers. They keep taking my platforms down. If my book becomes #1, they can't deny the book. That's a really good way to help me get my book out, the story out through my book. My platforms are taken down left and right. The cabal doesn't want my truth out. They don't like me sharing that our government's controlled by criminals. And I'm the real John Kennedy Jr., but any which way we can share. I'm telling everybody to go old school. Robin got us a trailer, and I've been putting stickers on it. Every time I get some extra money, I'll put a picture of my book on there. I'm going old school. I want to drive that thing up and down the Las Vegas Strip and honk my horn to get my story out.
Yes.
If my story can be heard, they have to expose the criminals.
It's a good price too. It was $19.99. Amazon dropped the price to $17.99 for the paperback version. There is a hardback version you can get, family, if you desire that, or you can get the Kindle version. I think the Kindle version is only $9.99. So you can get Stolen Identity: Unveiling the Real John Kennedy Jr. by John F. Kennedy Jr. on Amazon. And the story it's heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching, it's dramatic, I went through so many emotions reading the book, but it's a must read because it highlights and it details all the stuff, or no, he couldn't tell the whole story, but that goes on at the highest level, things you could never imagine that the shadow government is doing to these children and to their parents as well. It's a
huge achievement, that book. It really is.
It is.
I was told if I ever did anything like that, I would be killed. I was told I'd be killed many a times. But it's a huge achievement because it's out now. It's out. It's available for people to read it and judge for themselves. They don't want it out. They really don't. But it's out. I thank Jackie Goldman so very much for helping me write it. I was tortured. I was abused. I could not write to save my life if I had to. It's all scribbles. But she came to me and she said, I want to help you. And I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. So the book was actually written over video chat for months. Jackie is wonderful. When we were sitting there video chatting, my son used to pop his head in the computer and say, "Hi, Jackie." She actually sent me this. This is my son with the book.
Yeah.
He was really proud of that book. He said, "Dad, someday your book's gonna take off and we won't live and be poor anymore." but
Yeah.
she sent me that. Jackie Goldman that helped me write, wonderful lady, and I appreciate her. Huge achievement, huge achievement.
You did a great job. You did a phenomenal job telling your story in such a way that she was able to capture your experiences and put them in words. And when you're reading it as a reader, you actually live the experiences that you went through. That's a phenomenal book. It
Yeah, I could
definitely.
have never done it without her. She's awesome.
Yeah.
I was proofreading it when she said she had it done and proofreading it. And I teared up so many times. I walked away for a day or two. I'd go back, start reading it, start tearing up again. I did that a couple times. And then finally I just shut it off and said, whatever she put is good. I don't want to read my book ever again.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I want to say thank you to Michael Mathis for sending us super sticker. Well, I appreciate you so much. God bless you. Heaven smile on you. We appreciate your support. Here's one of the lions, Henry. he is a moderator.
Awesome,
I made him a moderator because I love how he shares your story, and he seemed to be a very sincere, like you said, awesome gentleman.
He really, really is. I keep saying, you know, when this story comes out, we're going to have a barbecue someday, hopefully on the White House lawn and celebrate.
Many different actors play Trump. Yeah. They only need the persona and the name. Henry, I feel that. Yes, that makes sense. And, you know, we see many actors playing Biden. We can receive that. We see many actors playing a lot of people. We know that they've been killed and replaced. Hollywood actors, entertainers, we know it. So why can't we accept it when it comes to Trump? They just needed the persona and the name. It's very, but we think he's doing some good things, John. Like,
you think he is?
Okay.
You got the Democratic Party, you got the Republican Party. They're all been infiltrated by organized crime. My point is, we don't need a Biden. We don't. I mean, the shadow government that's in control put Trump in place. They put Biden in place, but we don't need Biden that can't remember what he had for breakfast. That his mind is total. We need a commander in chief. He should step down immediately and find a replacement for himself. I know I would if I was in the position. You know, he's been advised so many times that you know. But then you got Donald Trump that's also been put in place. You know, he's a criminal. He's a pedophile. He's an asshole. He's arrogant. He's, you know, no military experience to be a commander in chief. He doesn't even, he shouldn't even be running for the position just because he's a billionaire. We think he's going to save the day. No, we need somebody with military experience, somebody that wants to protect us, somebody that is for we the people. And all I see is the, you know, the fake Donald Trump put in place to make more money for the criminals. Shark in a suit. We really need a commander in chief, but everybody's brainwashed. Everybody's brainwashed into thinking we only have 2 candidates to vote for. There is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more people qualified to serve the country, to protect us, to care about us, to solve all the millions of problems in this country. And they keep saying they're going to do it, but they don't do it. But there's so many more people qualified. But we're all brainwashed into thinking, well, look at Biden. He's a real jerk. He can't remember anything. And then you go, well, there's Trump, and he's rich. He says he's for us, for the people. So who are you going to vote for? Neither one. Yeah, you remember the Richard Pryor movie long time ago with Richard Pryor, vote for none of the above.
Yes. And I wonder if, according to our republic, if we're even supposed to be voting. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. You know, according to
all I want is somebody that cares about this country, somebody that's not under the control of organized crime, that wants to make change. And there could be so many changes made the day somebody takes office. Just signing pieces of paper. Hey, we're going to clean up the homeless. We're going to stop the infiltration of all these illegals coming in. We're going to put jobs back in America. We're going to take care of our veterans. All these things that politicians usually say that aren't ever done, but they don't want them done because they're making their money off the cartels and all the CIA with the flow of all the illegal drugs, the criminals. And in that interview with Larry King, the fake John was a DA. I never knew he was a DA. I tried to distance myself from all of them, but he was a lawyer. Then he became a DA. You imagine a man like that, what he could do as a DA to try to be the next John Gotti to take over New York, the crime level. Who knows what they could have done? But it's all being done. It's all run by the cabal. And we need to clean up. So bad do we need to clean up what's going on.
Yeah, I would think if somebody were to step up and speak out like your dad did, some bad things could happen to them. So you almost have to clean up the shadow government first before you got the right person in place to, right? Or I guess maybe you would do it all at the same time.
Robin asked me the other day, what would you do if you became the president of the United States? I wouldn't tell you, Robin. I'd just do it.
Okay. And with that, I'm going to move on to the next subject. Can we see the video with not JFK, with the fake John and what's his name? The interview. Yes. Is it okay if I pull it up and do it?
Yeah, please. That was awesome.
You shared it with me, and so I want to share it with.
And actually, Mojo shared it to Henry, and Henry shared it to me, and I was like, keep digging, people. Keep digging. There's so much truth out there. It's right in front of our face.
So I know I'm sharing this. This is for entertainment purposes only, YouTube, so don't bother us. And I think I can stop it periodically and talk, and then they won't flag me for showing this video for copyright infringement. But did you tell me it was only the first 3 minutes or so?
If you go through the whole interview, to me, when I don't even think I saw the whole interview. Okay. I think I had to stop it after a while, but to me, it is a shakedown. Larry King, because this is after the fact that Jackie was killed. This was the advertisement to George magazine, which his real name was George. But by watching this, what I pulled out of it was Larry King was letting him know and letting other people know that they know. And it was like Larry King was letting you know, hey, I'm the boss here. And the people I work for are the boss. And we got you by the balls anytime we want you. Wow. And that's what I picked up from it. And then he brought up my sister. And he was like, what about your sister? And it's like, we got her by the balls too. Wow. So it was basically, that was the concept I got from watching Larry King, because they're all cabal, but they were putting John Jr. in check.
I'm gonna put this in the chat. Larry King live interview, so you all can see. I am going to put it in the description section, and I'm gonna play it for you all as well. But just so you can have it, I'll put it in the chat. That's the link there. And it's called the JFK Jr. / Larry King interview, September 1995. And here we go. Anything else you want to say before I push play?
No, if you stop, I might come up with something. But yeah, for now, okay. I'm glad Mojo found it. I tried to distance myself from any of that, but when something good, like, I'm very interested when good stuff comes out like that.
It supports what you're saying.
In this gentleman than in any other person in this country, and probably with good thinking. John F. Kennedy Jr., he is the mastermind, he and his co-founder and executive publisher, Michael J. Berman, of this extraordinary magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, I mean, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process. And while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't. And so while you had all this interest on it that you could really could point to with statistics and facts, we thought, well, here's an opportunity to do a different kind of political magazine.
Didn't you want to be?
He said, "Yeah, I thought you were a lawyer."
Yeah.
So I never knew. Okay, I didn't know he was a lawyer. Oh, and these, they like going to okay, they like going to politics.
Yeah, I was even told when I was young they all want to be lawyers so they can control everything. The cabal, they put all their family members as lawyers, just like all the. But yeah, he actually mentions, he says your father was a lawyer, which my father was never a lawyer that I know of.
Okay, I'm gonna get to that part.
I was a lawyer for 7 years. Well, 3 in law school and 4 in the DA's office.
You were a DA. By the way, how did the DA do in the Simpson trial, do you think, in this windup?
I think the DA did very well.
Darden and Marcia?
I think so. It's obviously a case, enormous scrutiny and a huge challenge, but I think that they did very well. And
Cochran, impressive?
Absolutely, from day one.
Okay, would he be a tough adversary if you were back in the old? I'm glad you're not. Right?
Absolutely.
Is he talking about Johnny Cochran?
I'm not sure.
Okay, Johnny Cochran was a lawyer who defended O.J. Simpson. Okay.
You're a prosecutor. You're on your way. Legal runs through your whole family. Uncle Attorney General, your father a lawyer, other uncle a lawyer. Why magazine?
Well, I mean, one of the things that you sort of have to understand about this enterprise is that the opportunity to do an entrepreneurial venture, to really start to take a big risk, and to have an idea and see it through and develop it and nurture it. And as we went along, I mean, there were plenty of opportunities where we could have said, well, this idea isn't going to work. But what kept happening was that we would get feedback, or when we tested it, we would get a certain response through the direct mail, which said, wow, there's something here.
But in you, there was always this editor-writer wannabe?
I'm not sure. No. No, and I think that, Michael and I kind of came, I think really what happened was there was a synergy. He came at it from a really marketing point of view and said, there is an unfilled marketing niche here. And I had come from my family. We had always been grew up around politics, that it was a fascinating way to spend one's career. And I had been always kind of interested in how you could get that idea out to more people, because as I grew older, it became clear that not that many people shared that view.
It was also a family that liked the press generally, commiserated with the press.
Yeah,
enjoyed
I think the generation before me more so.
But are you now, this is it? This is going to be your life, editing, publishing, magazines, writing? Is that it?
Well, I mean, starting a magazine is a huge enterprise. We were 2 years in starting this, and we started it ourselves. And now that Hachette is our partners in it, there is a considerable investment. We have a staff. So this is a big enterprise, and it's enormously exciting for both of us. So,
is there anything you want to say before I go on, John?
I'm just listening.
Okay.
So this is what we're doing,
for the time being, or you want to stay with?
Well, I would hate to say I'm going to do anything till I'm 70, but I'm going to be doing this for the foreseeable future.
There's so many people with so much interest in you, and I don't want to delve into the macabre interest, but the serious one. Is it tough being a junior?
I mean, sure. I wouldn't know. I don't have a basis of comparison.
I mean, are there ever days you say, I wish my name were David?
No, I'm pretty happy with what it is. I mean, if you're asking if...
Wait. He said, do you wish your name were David? Did you want to say something about
this is where the shakedown started.
Okay.
If you could see the expression on his face, it looks like he just got hit in the head with a brick.
Because David is the name they gave you. right? Is that okay?
And he knew me, and he knew that he stole my identity. He knew me. I mean, so his whole everything, you know, when he remembers back saying about my father, just like he said earlier, when he Larry King said your father was a lawyer. My father was a military man, not a lawyer.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the start when he said, "How do you feel about being a junior?" Because he wasn't a junior. So Larry King just started drilling him, letting him know from that point, how do you feel about being a junior?
And he kind of stumbled there. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, because he says when Larry King asked him right after this, well, what do you think? And he said, I recommend it. Basically, to me, he's telling Larry King, I recommend identity theft. You can get rich.
Wow.
But yeah, if you play it, that was the good part.
Okay.
It's hard being me.
It's brought you a unique life.
Yeah, absolutely, and great opportunities and some challenges. But all in all, I feel very fortunate. So it's not so bad.
You think
I'd recommend it.
You do. You think it's very good to be the son of a legend.
You know, I mean, it's complicated, and it makes for a rich and complicated life. So
I recommend it. It makes for a rich and complicated life. I caught that.
But that's, I think, part of the puzzle to figure out in my life.
More complicated for you than your sister?
I'm not sure. No, different.
Different. Do you think someday you might write about you and George? There being so much interest in you, a first-person piece. I mean, you wrote a terrific introduction, but just about you.
No.
Why? You don't think?
Well, I mean, I'd let somebody else do it. I don't know if I'd bring to an objective eye to it.
What'd you say, John?
I just caught that part. Larry King asked him, someday, are you going to write about you and George? Like maybe someday, are you going to expose that your name was actually George?
Yes. Wow. Wow. Let me go back just a little bit.
Why? You don't think?
Well, I mean, I'd let somebody else do it. I don't know if I'd bring to an objective to figure out in my life.
More complicated for you than your sister?
I'm not sure. No, different.
Different. Do you think someday you might write about you and George? There being so much interest in you, a first-person piece. I mean, you wrote a terrific introduction, but just about you.
No.
Why? You don't think?
Well, I mean, I'd let somebody else do it. I don't know if I'd bring to an objective eye to it.
Has privacy been the toughest thing?
He said, I'm doing it. What'd you say?
He said, I'll let somebody else write about George.
Oh, and you said you're doing it. Right.
For me?
Yeah.
I mean,
you go out, people follow you, right? I mean, you don't have a normal life.
I have a pretty normal life, surprisingly. I mean, you know, every now and then sort of strange things happen. But, I mean, up until the cavalcade of publicity for George, I was a private citizen.
You weren't easily recognized on the street?
No, but people, I think you're not in the business of really selling your personality. So I think people kind of understood that, and you know, sure, people would ask and stuff. People generally nice, and it's not a crazy situation.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.
Because?
I think that, you know, when we first talked about the idea, she said, well, John, you're not going to do the Mad magazine or politics. and I said, well, no. And I thought that was good advice to keep in the back of my mind what a direction we wanted to go, but I think that she would have appreciated the fact that people had always said that you can't do a fun magazine about politics that combines the serious as well as the playful, which is about personalities, because that's what public life is about. And in the sense that we, I think, have flouted a lot of conventional wisdom, I think that would have appealed to her.
Because she had a good sense of humor, right?
She had a good sense of humor, and I don't think she was a slave to conventional wisdom. And I think that there's a certain irony in the whole enterprise, and I think she would have appreciated it.
You can see Larry King when he's looking at him. You can tell he's like playing with him, you know, like like he's trying to get at him. Larry King is definitely trying to let him know that I know what you're up to. And you can see it.
And it might have been, I know you killed your mom, but you notice how when he's talking about his mom, he's almost got like smirks going on.
Yes, I did see that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I do believe that he actually poisoned her.
He poisoned Jackie, you believe?
Yeah, my fake mother, his mother. You know, they were all body doubles, all, you know, placed in by the cabal. And I do believe he killed her, actually poisoned her by her own words. Her own words to Wayne were, I think the children poisoned me, and him being one of the children. So with that said, when he's talking about his mother, look at his you know, face. He's almost like smirking inside of himself.
He can't
like, I just made millions killing her.
How evil must you be to do something like that?
All for money. All for money.
She would have said, "This is a cute idea."
Were you going to say something, John?
Yeah, not.
You said no.
It's all good. No, it's all good.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
I just, the whole thing, just, it's really upsetting how he's so arrogant about stealing my identity. Yeah. And yeah, but it's frustrating for me to even watch him without hatred in my heart. It really is. I despise this man for what he did to my life. But when we were young, I didn't hold anything against him until I found out that he was one that wanted me dead, with all the attempts on my life and me living the life I had to live, because men like that didn't want my story out to the world. But when he killed his own mother, not his own mother, but the replacement the world knew as his own mother, that was the last straw, I believe, for him. He was a dead man. And I think Larry King was calling it out on his show.
Should we stop?
That's what I believe.
Should we stop here, or do you want me to keep going?
That's up to you. I don't remember much of it. The first I saw it was when Henry shared it with me day before yesterday, I believe. And I had to go see it. I was watching it a little bit this morning before I clicked off. I found it, but
I don't want it to upset you. I really don't. You know, I can understand it bringing up some negative emotions, but you can't.
When I saw him on the Oprah Winfrey show, and if you notice, the camera puts it right on his ears, right on that whole interview. He was showing his ears, and if you look at any of the childhood photos, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. You can plainly see he has no earlobe like I did when I was a child.
Wow. So, John, you told your story. It's a very compelling story. We know it to be true. Now what? Like, what? How would you get justice?
If we can expose them for what they've done to me, if we can expose them for the facts that they're covering me up to this day, that they won't bring me out because they would rather cover up the criminals than use the justice system, I think we could make a big difference. I really, really do, when it comes to, freeing Americans, freeing the people around the world to the corruption of our government. They're flat out not wanting to help. They're flat out wanting to cover this story up. And I think if we expose my story to the world, they'll have no choice but to resign or make a big change. They should be talking about me in the Senate right now. They should be talking about me in Congress, on the Hill, the son of an assassinated president, what they've done. If we can bring it out, if we can share it, I don't think they'll have any choice but to bring me out and quit covering me up and put it on the news and start talking about it. I think it'll help. I really do. I don't have any more answer. You know, that's what I've come up with. They told me, you know, go with the plan. Don't talk about it my whole life. And nothing's ever been done. So the best plan I can come up with is share my story. Let's get it out. Let's expose the criminals. And maybe once they're exposed, we can make changes for the good.
Yes, I think they won't talk about it because then you'll be exposing what they're doing right now. They're playing psychological games with us right now to this day about the elections. We're so close. We don't really know. We don't know what's going on with either of the candidates for real. We've been made so many promises. I'm sorry.
And Washington's all locked up. They got fences up. It's almost like they're getting ready for a war.
It is. Or, you know, the other side of it is they really could be, I'm trying to be hopeful, taking down Washington, since it is what it's, you know, supposed to be a foreign entity and not a part of the America, is what they say. So maybe they're taking it down. I don't know. That's what we hear. You don't sound hopeful.
I wish I was more hopeful.
I know. I don't blame you though. You've been through a lot.
These people are still in power. Nothing's been done.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could be more hopeful. My son just died 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I have so many unanswered questions. My book's still open.
Yeah.
I'm still being covered up. So when I try to be hopeful, it's like I would be more hopeful if I saw some black cars pull up here with FBI agents saying, hey, we're going to work with you now.
Yes.
Or, you know, a caravan of Secret Service agents saying, hey, John, we messed up. But none of that's happened. So I can't really get to, you know, if Sean Hannity came on Fox News and say, yeah, I knew John, me and him were schoolmates. We were children together. I know he was replaced. It ain't happening.
Because he took the money. He was supposed to come out, right?
Yeah.
I read that.
So, you know, my cousin, Donald Trump, being killed and replaced, still running for president. I really wish I was more hopeful.
I understand. And people are saying, why don't you, people keep talking about the DNA test, but please understand that the DNA testing is still controlled by the cabal. So first of all, he has to get samples. Both of his parents are deceased. So you got to go through a lot of rituals, so a lot of different things.
I have taken 5 DNA tests. One of my DNA tests, the results were on TikTok that was removed for no reason. I have a YouTube channel at John Fitzgerald Kennedy. I'm pretty sure one of the very first videos I put up was one of my DNA test results. The scientist told me, many scientists have told me, you have to have a paternal-maternal test, either from your mother and you or from your father and you. So we purchased DNA of my mother and my father. It's not cheap. We didn't test my mother's. We still have her hair samples. We purchased DNA from my father, but it wasn't enough. They said they needed a lock of hair. That's still in the works, people. But we purchased the same DNA that went into outer space, and it came up inconclusive. Not my DNA inconclusive, but the same DNA that we purchased from my father came up inconclusive. It's not like I ain't trying. I'm trying to do what I can. I know who I am, people. I know 100% I'm telling you the truth. It's you people that can't wake up and see all the other evidence that need DNA, yell, shout, scream to our government to prove me wrong. They can't.
They can't.
But they will expose them for being wrong. They will expose themselves for being criminals. You're asking the wrong dude for DNA. I'm doing what I can, people. And it pisses me off when I hear DNA, DNA, DNA. You're shouting at the wrong people. Ask Donald Trump for his DNA. I'm exposing him. Ask Bobby Kennedy for his DNA. I'm exposing him. I'm exposing these people for murder. Pre-planned, first-degree murder. Ask them for their DNA. I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, and you know, because if they did sue you, then all the evidence will be brought out in discovery, and they would incriminate themselves.
Oh,
So
I would love for my sister Caroline to sue me. My sister Caroline was murdered and replaced by the Caroline you know. I'm calling her out every chance I get. She was murdered and replaced. Caroline Kennedy is alive to this day, have lived off millions and millions of dollars pretending to be a Kennedy, and has no Kennedy blood whatsoever. I'm calling you out. Come sue me, sister.
wow. Right on. And the Robert Kennedy, like, he's probably not real either if they got rid of their whole family.
By
I heard
1975, I was told my family was dead. Ted Kennedy. Everybody knew Ted Kennedy. I was told he was bringing people to their deaths. He wasn't even Ted Kennedy anymore. It's huge, the power and the deceive that they deceive. But Ted Kennedy was like the top of the Kennedy family. I believe that he was one of the first to be murdered and replaced with identity theft. You got spy versus spy, people stealing identities. But then all the family members were going to Ted. And Ted wasn't Ted anymore and was bringing people to their deaths.
Jesus.
But 1975, I was told I did not have any family left, and the other ones were like distant cousins or whatever. But I was devastated in 1975, thinking my loved ones have all been murdered in this war to take over the family.
Wow. Your mom paid.
I don't know if Maria Shriver is even Maria Shriver. I wish I could get answers. I met with Ted Kennedy and Maria Shriver in Yosemite Lakes Park in Coarsegold, California. This was in the early 70s. And they both, I was sitting there both with them. And Ted Kennedy said, he's just a pothead. I'm not going to bring him out, that he is the real John Kennedy Jr. I'm not going to do it. Now, why did he say that right in front of me? I don't know. But I don't have the answers. I know it's crazy. You know, it could be anything why he said he would not bring me out. Maybe they had his family. Maybe they were threatening his family. Maybe he wasn't even dead anymore. There's so many possibilities. I don't have the answers. It's been driving me crazy for years why he didn't bring me out and expose me and let this corruption continue to go on. Let the John Kennedy Jr., the whole world knew, continue to be fake myself. I wish I did. I really wish I did.
But you know what?
Answer that he wasn't even Ted Kennedy.
Wow. Wow. Your story is giving so many people the inspiration to come out and tell their stories. I know that to be a fact. You know, I've heard. I wish we could all get on the same page and join up and start sharing our stories. It would be awesome. I'm working on it. I'm working on it, but the two I know, and it's absurd to like actually talk to people who they know their family, you know, they know they come from this bloodline, but they're left out there to die. It's awesome to talk to them and hear their stories and be able to share with them, you know, and love on them and help them as you can. But it's like beyond your comprehension that they are part of these bloodline families and not able to get any help. But it makes sense if they got rid of their family members, why they're not getting help. Because somebody else is standing in their stead.
Charles Manson was in prison doing an interview, and I had to share his interview on TikTok a few months back. But he said it's crazy at the top. Everything is on paper. All this money, it's huge. It's all on paper. And he flat out said he had been wealthy beyond dreams 3 times over. And this was Charles Manson saying that, but he said the top of the bloodlines, they don't care about the children. They just kick them to the curb because it's all about the money and the power.
Wow. Wow.
But it hit home. It hit home so much with me, his little interview.
Thank you. Wow, you told us a lot. There's a question I want to ask you about, and I know we've been on for 1 hour, 39 minutes. I want to respect your time. I just want to ask you this question about who your mom paid to protect you. What was the name of the group?
The Hells Angels.
The Hells Angels. The government would make us think that the Hells Angels is a group of outlaws who are criminals that you can't trust. They're violent, you know, et cetera, et cetera. What made your mom pay them to protect you?
They were huge. They're more powerful than people can imagine, from protecting the Rolling Stones. It was a group of military men, and they had huge connections, probably all the way to the top in Washington. I don't have all the answers. I met some of the heads of the Hells Angels. Did some of the Hells Angels turn against me? Maybe. But there's some, you know, there's good and bad. And our government, they're the best at what they do. They can start wars.
Yeah.
Between two countries, let alone two rival biker clubs. They can set people up for murder. They can put innocent people in prison for crimes they haven't even done. They're powerful. They really are. I learned at a young age to respect the Hells Angels, though. I really did.
We learned that in the Black community, that there were groups like that, so-called gangs, that were actually like organic militia that was supposed to protect the community, but the government and CIA agents infiltrated them. The police came in, infiltrated them, and caused them to war against each other. This is the story that a lot of us hear, and they became known as vice lords and criminals and gang bangers. But initially, they didn't start out that way. So when I hear you talk about motorcycle biking clubs or gangs, I can totally relate. Totally relate. And I'm talking, I've heard this from people that's involved in these Black gangs at the top that would tell me how they started and how they were infiltrated.
Our government's good at infiltrating. So many of the big crimes that are seen on TV that make the news could be part of our government's doings. They're very powerful at what they do. If anybody tries to get too big, they usually get taken down one way or another, and they got the best tricks in the book to do it.
And it's interesting how they will call. So let's say that the biker gang was created to protect people. They'll call them outlaws as if that's a bad thing. But when you think about the way the law runs, they're the criminals. They're the cabal. They're the evil, wicked people. So why wouldn't you create some type of militia to protect yourself and your community against the cabal? That's constitutional. We have a constitutional right to form a militia and actually fight against people that take over our government, like the cabal has done. We have
the Constitution gave us that right. I'm joined up. We need to get rid of them. We so do. They gave us the right to start a militia. Hey, sign up. Let's take care of business.
Do you know they just arrested a whole group of the Hells Angels in California? I don't know if you knew that.
No, I don't watch the news.
Okay, it was online. Somebody sent me the article. Yeah, they arrested a whole group of Hell Angels and took down a couple of the top at the top. And I was thinking about that, and I said, I wonder if they arrested them because information is getting out. Maybe they're trying to prevent. So you know how the government is evil. Maybe they're trying to arrest them so that your story won't get out, or because they were protecting you. Who knows with these people that are in power?
Well, when I was young, Wayne even had me go talk to the rival gang. One of the hardest things I ever did was you had the Hells Angels, you have the Outlaws.
Okay.
But they had me go try to make peace.
Wow.
But our government, they, just like our CIA can start a war, and I hope the bikers with the Outlaws and the Hells Angels are listening to me. Our government can start a war. They can deceive you to make, if the Hells Angels and the Outlaws joined forces, there would be no stopping them to take over the United States government.
Mm-hmm.
But our government wouldn't want that peace.
Mm.
So back in the day, I wanted, you know, I've always wanted peace, but you don't know how the government steps into play it with the murders and the deception and trying to deceive the bosses at the top. And you never know. So before you can judge, you really got to have all the answers. I mean, you know, it's clear in my mind the United States government, federal agents were trying to kill me when I was being protected by the Hells Angels.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up.
It's all the art of war. You know, if they kill the father, they're going to come after his lineage because they know that it's in your blood to get vengeance. It's even if you don't want to, it's in your DNA. It's in your structure. It's in your manhood to get vengeance. You know, so I'm grateful that you're coming forward with your story. And
We'll leave that to the Lord.
Okay. All right. That leads me to my final question. Do you think you'll ever run for president, or you have any aspirations? You probably wouldn't tell us anyway, but do you?
As far as president, the system's broke.
Okay.
The system put in place for president, it's not working. Organized crime has taken over. So I wouldn't want to be a president. I would rather want to be with a group of people trying to help the American people. I don't have the answers, but organized crime, our shadow government has put presidents in place, and we're in the situation we are now. So it's a hard call, but we don't need a president put in power by someone else running the show.
Absolutely. Well, you are an American hero because you have the courage that it took to expose these criminals and to inspire us, excuse me, to get your story out. And you're helping us, John. And it's how can I say this? It's eye-opening, your story, and it's causing some of us to have a little cognitive dissonance, like I said earlier, because, you know, either we're for Trump or we're for Biden. And so when you say they're both criminals and Trump died in 1989, it forces you to say, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be looking for anybody to save us, which we should have been doing all along. And we just need to save ourselves.
Exactly. We all need to join up. We don't need a president. We need people. The system was made for we the people. We need to take that back. We don't need a president. We don't need a billionaire in a suit. We don't need somebody that don't remember what they can't eat for breakfast and every other thing. We need people that care. I wish I had the system already put in place that we could start fixing all the problems. But there's a lot of good people, hardworking people that care about this country that'll come up with the answers in the long run. I'm sure of it. But voting for president ain't the answer.
It ain't the answer. It's not the answer. And, you know, hopefully something behind the scenes is going on to take down the deep state, the cabal, but we can do our part. And that's what we're doing now, family. We're supporting this man, getting his story out, and we're listening to it, and we're learning about how deep, dark, and sinister this whole cabal runs. It penetrates every segment of our society: economics, politics, education, religion, health, all of them. It's, I think, just like 9 areas that they have penetrated. So having said that, John, do you have any final words you want to leave us with?
I am sitting here and the sweat is just dripping off me. I've had a fly bothering me the whole time. But yeah, Kia, thank you. Thank you so very, very much for helping me get the truth out. There's so many people that aren't, and you're one of them that are. Please bless this woman.
Thank you.
Please. Her time and her effort and all her hard work is worth it. Please let's keep going. Share her videos. Share. Join me on YouTube. Thank you so much, Kia. You're awesome.
You're welcome. I'm going to tell them where they can here's his YouTube page, family, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. And then on TikTok, let's see if I can bring it up. We're going to hurry up because he's hot. It's hot there. What's your name on TikTok? Let me see. Here it is.
Yeah, it's new on TikTok.
Okay,
that's me, and there's many fake accounts on there that aren't me. That's my only TikTok account.
Okay. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. It was David. I'll put it in the description section for you, family. It's david.quigley.jfk. So that's it, family. We've had 2 hours, almost an hour and 50 minutes with this wonderful, great man, a wonderful American hero, telling his story and inspiring us to tell our story and inspiring us to unite as one family to support, love, and encourage each other as we go into this new golden era. So, family, I hope you have a happy Sabbath. You guys are saying they love you very much, John. They appreciate you telling your story. If you want to support John, send him a Cash App, please, to $ Poor Boy John Jr. That's $ Poor Boy John Jr. And that's it, family. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. You've just heard a testimony from John Kennedy Jr. I hope that we've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Good night, family. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.